I walked into my husband's office one afternoon, expecting a simple lunch, but instead, I caught his coworker, slipping her phone number right into his hand. The worst part? She did it while staring me in the face. What would you do? Keep watching to find out how I turn this betrayal into the most satisfying revenge of my life. Zara had always been confident in her relationship with Jaemin. They were an Afro-Korean couple, an unconventional pairing that made people turn their heads. But Zara didn't care. She loved him, and he loved her. They had built something real, something deep. And to her, that was all that mattered. Their bond was solid until Eunji entered the picture. Zara had been visiting Jaemin at work for lunch for months now. It was their little routine. She loved seeing him at the office. It made her feel connected to his world. His office was small, quiet, nothing too flashy. Just the way she liked it. Zara always walked in with a smile, confident in herself and in the trust they shared. But this time was different. That day, Zara walked in, coffee in hand, expecting the usual warmth and joy. What she didn't expect was the strange tension in the air. Jaemin was sitting at his desk, laughing with his colleague, Suk. Zara smiled, ready to say her hellos and join in the fun. But then, she noticed her. Eunji. She was new to the office, Zara had been told. A 24-year-old warehouse assistant turned office staff member. Zara had seen her around before but never thought much of it. Eunji was just another face in the office. But now, standing there with a radiant smile on her face, her eyes lingering on Jaemin a little too long, something inside Zara shifted. There was a subtle undercurrent in the air. A quiet intensity that made Zara uneasy. Zara chalked it up to a feeling she was imagining, but then it happened. As Zara entered the room, Eunji's smile faltered just for a second. Her gaze dropped to Jaemin's left hand. The hand with the wedding band. That brief moment of hesitation spoke volumes. Zara caught it. And for the first time, she felt that little flicker of doubt. It wasn't a look of respect or recognition. No, it was something else. Something that sent a cold shiver down Zara's spine. Eunji looked back up, almost too quickly, trying to hide the discomfort she had just revealed. Zara was quick to put on a smile. After all, she had nothing to prove. She knew her worth. But the thing was, Eunji didn't know Zara. And Zara wasn't about to let this go unnoticed. "Hi, I'm Zara," she said with a smile, her voice light but her gaze sharp. Eunji smiled back, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. She extended her hand, trying to keep it polite. But Zara could see it, the subtle tension, the awkwardness that hung in the air. Zara shook her hand, but it was clear this wasn't going to be a casual meeting. "I'm Jaemin's wife," Zara added, her voice steady, but carrying an underlying warning. The reaction was almost imperceptible. A slight drop of Eunji's smile. Zara saw it, and that was all it took. Eunji quickly excused herself, mumbling something about needing to help with an order. As she hurried away, Zara caught the flash of disappointment in her eyes. But Zara wasn't going to let it slide. No, this wasn't just some innocent office crush. Zara knew exactly what she was dealing with now. This wasn't just about a new colleague, this was about a woman trying to get in between Zara and Jaemin. As Zara sat down at Jaemin's desk, her mind was racing. Was this just a misunderstanding? A woman being friendly? Or was it something more? Jaemin, oblivious to the tension building in the room, smiled and leaned over to kiss Zara's cheek. He wrapped his arm around her waist, and Zara tried to keep her composure. He had no idea what was really happening behind the scenes. But Zara couldn't shake the feeling in her gut. Something was off. "What's going on?" Zara asked, her voice carefully controlled. Jaemin looked at her, confused. "What do you mean?" "The new girl," Zara said, leaning in slightly, her eyes narrowed. "Eunji. She doesn't seem to understand boundaries, does she?" Jaemin frowned. "What are you talking about?" "She's just new here. She's trying to learn." Zara shook her head, the unease growing. "I don't think that's it. I don't think she's just trying to learn, Jaemin." Jaemin didn't seem to get it, but Zara's instincts were screaming. She was starting to see the bigger picture. Eunji wasn't just friendly, she was calculating. Zara could feel it in every interaction. This wasn't going to be some passing phase. This was the beginning of something that could tear her world apart. That night, as Zara lay in bed beside Jaemin, her thoughts raced. She loved him more than anything. But what if Eunji was starting something that Zara couldn't stop? What if this wasn't a simple crush, but something more dangerous? Zara had never been the jealous type, but the way Eunji looked at Jaemin, the way she had slipped her phone number to him right in front of Zara, made her blood boil. And that was when it hit her. This wasn't about a woman trying to get Jaemin's attention. This was about control. Eunji was trying to control the narrative, and Zara wasn't about to let it happen. But as Zara planned her next move, something unexpected happened. The very next day, Jaemin came home with something that made Zara's blood run cold, a text message from Eunji, apologizing for the awkwardness and asking if they could talk. What was she up to now? Zara's hands clenched into fists. She wasn't about to let this woman ruin everything she had built. But what was Eunji really after? Do you think Zara should confront Eunji, or should she wait for her next move? What would you do if you were in her shoes? Don't let this story end here. Subscribe now, because the drama's just beginning, and you don't want to miss what's coming next. Zara had always prided herself on being confident. As an Afro-Korean woman, her relationship with Jaemin, her husband, was unique. The blend of cultures, the understanding they shared, and the deep bond they'd built over the years was something she held onto tightly. She never once questioned her marriage, knowing full well that Jaemin was just as committed to her as she was to him. But recently, something had begun to feel off, something that tugged at the edge of her mind. It all started innocently enough. Zara had been visiting Jaemin's office for lunch, just like she did several times a week. Their little routine was something she cherished. But each time she walked in, she began to notice a new presence in the office, Eunji. She was young, lively, and new to the team, having recently transitioned from warehouse work to office duties. Zara had seen her around, but her interactions with Jaemin seemed innocent enough at first. Zara didn't think much of it. After all, Eunji was a new face at work, and it was only natural for her to need help. But Zara had always been a woman with sharp instincts, and soon, she couldn't ignore the subtle signs. The way Eunji would lean just a little too close when asking Jaemin for help with a task, the way she laughed a bit too loudly at his jokes. The small touches here and there. Her hand lingering on Jaemin's arm a second too long, or the way she'd look at him with eyes that felt a little too hungry for Zara's liking. At first, Zara tried to push these thoughts away. She didn't want to seem paranoid. But every time she visited Jaemin at work, the signs became harder to ignore. One afternoon, Zara walked into the office, bringing Jaemin his favorite sandwich. As usual, she smiled as she approached his desk, expecting the usual warm greeting. But today was different. Eunji was standing far too close to Jaemin, her voice a little too playful as she handed him some papers. Zara noticed the way Eunji's fingers brushed his hand as she passed him the stack of files. Zara's chest tightened. She smiled politely, trying to suppress the wave of anger that was rising inside her. Eunji caught sight of her and immediately stepped back, but Zara saw the flicker of something in her eyes. Was it guilt? Or was it something more sinister? "Hey, Jaemin," Zara said, forcing her voice to remain calm as she kissed him on the cheek. She turned to Eunji with a forced smile. "I see you two are getting along." Eunji quickly nodded, her smile tight. "Yes, of course," she said, but Zara could see the discomfort in her posture, the way she avoided Zara's gaze. Zara stood there for a moment, her mind racing. She could see it now. Eunji wasn't just a coworker. She wasn't just being friendly. This wasn't just a harmless flirtation. No, this was something more, something Zara had never expected to see in her own workplace. The thought of another woman, especially one who knew that Zara was married to Jaemin, trying to get his attention right in front of her made her blood boil. But instead of confronting them both, Zara took a deep breath and calmly excused herself. She wasn't going to let her emotions control her. Not yet. Underscore 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 underscore. Underscore 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 underscore. The next few days passed in a blur of uneasy interactions. Zara found herself becoming more and more observant whenever she visited Jaemin at work. She noticed the little things, the way Eunji would always find a reason to stand near Jaemin, always brushing against him as she passed. She saw how Eunji would look at him with those wide, innocent eyes, but Zara knew better. It was all a game, and Zara wasn't going to be played. One afternoon, Zara walked into the break room to find Jaemin and Eunji standing together, deep in conversation. They were talking about an order, but Zara could see the way Eunji was leaning in a little too closely, her body angled towards Jaemin as she spoke. Zara's heart pounded in her chest. Was she imagining things, or was Eunji trying to invade their personal space in a way that felt too intimate? When she approached, Zara greeted them both with a tight smile. "Everything going okay here?" she asked, her voice steady, though it trembled just underneath the surface. Jaemin turned to her, his face lighting up. "Yeah, just talking about the new orders for next week. Eunji was helping me sort it out." Zara nodded, though the smile on her face didn't quite reach her eyes. "I see," she replied, her gaze locking onto Eunji's for a brief moment. The younger woman stiffened, but quickly looked away. Zara could feel the tension thick in the air. She didn't trust this woman, not one bit. And she knew Jaemin didn't fully understand what was happening. He still saw Eunji as a coworker, someone who was just doing her job. But Zara could feel the shift, the subtle ways Eunji was trying to assert herself, to carve a space where she didn't belong. Zara wasn't going to let that happen. Underscore 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 underscore. That evening, after Zara and Jaemin had finished dinner, she decided it was time to confront him. Her frustration had been building, and she could no longer hold it in. "Jaemin, I need to talk to you about something," she said, her voice calm but firm. Jaemin looked up from his plate, sensing the seriousness in her tone. "What's wrong, honey?" he asked, concern in his eyes. Zara hesitated for a moment, trying to find the right words. "It's Eunji," she said quietly. "She's been flirting with you. And I can't keep pretending I don't see it." Jaemin's face immediately softened. "Zara, you're overthinking this. She's just being friendly. She's new here, and I'm just helping her out." Zara shook her head, her heart racing. "No, Jaemin. It's not just friendly. She's making moves. And I'm not okay with it." Jaemin frowned, clearly not understanding the depth of Zara's discomfort. "You're taking this too seriously," he said, his voice gentle. "She's just trying to fit in." But Zara could feel the anger boiling inside her. She wasn't going to let this woman ruin everything she had worked for. She loved Jaemin. But she wasn't going to sit idly by while someone tried to take him away from her. The conversation left Zara feeling more determined than ever. But as she lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, one question lingered in her mind. What should she do next? Was it time to confront Eunji directly, or was there another way to deal with this situation? The next time she saw her, Zara wasn't sure what would happen, but one thing was for sure: she was ready to fight for her marriage, no matter what it took. What would you do if you were in Zara's shoes? Would you confront Eunji, or would you take a different route? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below and subscribe. Zara couldn't shake the feeling that something was brewing beneath the surface. After their heated discussion the night before, she had tried to put her doubts to rest. But they gnawed at her, more persistent with every passing day. Each time she dropped by Jaemin's office, she kept her eye on Eunji, and every little thing she saw only made her more certain. She had visited Jaemin again today, as she did most days for lunch, trying to act like everything was fine. But as she entered his office, the atmosphere was different. It wasn't just the usual hum of office noise or the quiet chatter between Jaemin and his colleagues. Today, it felt tense. Zara could feel it as soon as she walked in, and she wasn't sure why. As she set the lunchbox on his desk, she noticed that Jaemin and his brother-in-law, Suk, were deep in conversation. Zara tried to ignore them as she started unpacking their lunch, but something Suk said caught her attention, making her freeze. "I don't know how much longer you can keep ignoring it, Jaemin." Suk's voice was low but clear. Zara's pulse quickened. She kept her head down, pretending to busy herself, but her ears were fixed on the conversation unfolding. Jaemin sighed. "I'm telling you, it's nothing. Eunji's just, well, she's new. She doesn't know how to act around people yet." Suk wasn't convinced. "Come on, man. I've seen the way she looks at you. You don't need to be blind to see that she's been making moves, even when Zara's around. She's not as subtle as you think." Zara's heart dropped. Her worst fears were being confirmed, piece by piece. She tried to hold her composure as she heard Jaemin mumble a response. "She's just being friendly, okay? I'm loyal to Zara, and I'm not interested in anything she's trying to do." His voice was firm, but there was a slight unease to it, as though he was trying to convince himself more than Suk. Zara could feel the rage building inside her, the hurt curling tightly in her chest. Jaemin had always been her rock, her protector. He had always been the man who reassured her that their relationship was strong. But now she wasn't so sure. How far had Eunji really gone? How long had this been going on? Zara didn't know what hurt more. The fact that Jaemin was so blind to what was happening right in front of him, or the thought that Eunji was so relentless in her pursuit. She couldn't keep listening to the conversation anymore. She couldn't pretend that she wasn't hurt, that she wasn't angry. Zara felt her breath catch in her throat as she turned to face Jaemin and Suk. "Is everything okay?" Zara's voice came out softer than she intended, but the words were clear. Jaemin turned toward her, his face immediately softening. "Yeah, just talking about work stuff," he said, trying to brush off the tension. But Zara wasn't buying it. Not anymore. As Suk excused himself to leave, Zara stayed behind, her hands trembling slightly as she reached for the lunchbox. She tried to act normal, to pretend that nothing had changed, but deep inside, everything had shifted. Every little interaction with Eunji, every lingering look, every small, almost invisible touch, they weren't harmless. She had known that all along. But hearing Jaemin admit it, hearing him try to downplay it, felt like a betrayal. Zara watched as Jaemin sat back down at his desk, his smile trying to reach her, but she couldn't smile back. She couldn't pretend like everything was fine. He didn't see it. He didn't see what she saw. "I don't understand why you don't see it, Jaemin," Zara finally said, her voice shaking but steady. "She's crossing lines. She's doing it right in front of me, and you're still blind to it." Jaemin furrowed his brow, clearly confused. "Zara, I'm telling you, it's nothing. She's just friendly." Zara felt the sting of his words hit her like a slap in the face. "Friendly? How much longer are you going to call it friendly, Jaemin? She's trying to steal you away from me. And you're letting her. It's not just a misunderstanding. She's making a move, and you're too blind to see it." Jaemin's face softened, but Zara could see the guilt creeping in. "Zara, I don't want her. I swear to you. I love you." Zara shook her head, the tears welling in her eyes. "I know you do, but this isn't just about love, Jaemin. It's about respect. It's about boundaries. And Eunji, she doesn't respect that. She doesn't respect me." Zara stood there, her heart aching. Her words hung heavy in the air between them. Jaemin, despite his assurances, still couldn't see the gravity of the situation. She had fought for this marriage, for their bond, and now it felt like it was slipping away. What was she supposed to do next? How far would she let this go before it broke her? As she walked out of the office that day, Zara couldn't shake the feeling that she was about to lose everything. But there was one thing she was sure of: she wasn't going to let Eunji win. The fight wasn't over. It was just beginning. How far would you go to protect your relationship? Is Zara overreacting, or is she right to stand her ground? The tension between Zara, Jaemin, and Eunji is reaching its boiling point. Subscribe to find out what happens next. Trust us, you don't want to miss the shocking twist that's coming. Zara had never felt this type of simmering anger before. It was something primal, raw, like a fire starting small, but threatening to consume everything in its path. The day had begun like any other. Zara had made her usual visit to Jaemin's office, bringing him lunch. They'd shared their usual moments of light-hearted conversation. But today, something felt different, something Zara couldn't quite pinpoint, but she knew it was there. And it was growing with every passing second. As she entered his office, Zara noticed Eunji's appearance immediately. The young woman was dressed provocatively, her clothes hugging her body in a way that Zara had never seen at work. The outfit wasn't inappropriate for a night out or a casual day, but it was certainly too much for the office. Zara clenched her fists at her sides, doing her best to suppress the rise of jealousy that had begun to build inside her. She wasn't the type to get jealous. She had always trusted Jaemin. But now, seeing Eunji in this outfit, her tight leggings and revealing top, it was clear that she was trying to grab Jaemin's attention, and it was working. As Zara watched, Eunji leaned over Jaemin's desk, her back arched slightly, her hips swaying in a way that was anything but accidental. It was as if she was trying to make sure that every inch of her body caught Jaemin's eye. Zara could feel her heart racing in her chest, the discomfort growing with every moment that passed. She didn't want to jump to conclusions, but the way Eunji was acting couldn't be ignored. Zara knew she had to say something. She could feel the anger bubbling inside her, but instead of confronting them in that moment, she took a deep breath and turned away, pretending to be oblivious to the scene in front of her. But inside, Zara was boiling over. How far was Eunji willing to push? How long was Jaemin going to keep letting this happen? As Zara moved toward the counter to place their lunch down, she overheard a conversation between Jaemin and his brother-in-law, Suk, who had come to the office to visit. Zara didn't mean to eavesdrop, but she couldn't help it. The words were clear, and they cut right through her. "I'm telling you, Jaemin, you can't keep ignoring it. She's coming on way too strong." Suk's voice was filled with concern. "I've seen the way she looks at you. You need to set boundaries before it goes too far." Jaemin's voice, on the other hand, was defensive. "She's just being friendly. There's nothing to worry about." "Friendly?" Suk scoffed. "I've seen how she touches you, how she looks at you. She's making moves, Jaemin. You're not as blind as you think you are. And, honestly, Zara deserves to know what's going on." Zara felt her stomach drop. She could hear it now. Suk wasn't the only one who noticed. This wasn't just about friendly office banter. Eunji was crossing the line, and Jaemin was either too oblivious or too forgiving to see it. Her chest tightened. How could he not see it? How could he not notice the way Eunji was constantly pushing, trying to get closer? As Zara turned back to the table, her mind was racing. She tried to focus on the lunch in front of her, on the small talk that Jaemin was making, but her thoughts were consumed with the conversation she'd just overheard. How could Jaemin not understand the situation? She had to do something. The old Zara, the one who trusted everyone and played things cool, was gone. This was war, and Zara wasn't going to sit back and let this woman tear her marriage apart. But how far could she go? What was the right way to handle this? The next few moments were a blur. Zara kept her cool, smiled, and shared lunch with Jaemin, but her mind wasn't in the room with him. Every time Eunji walked past, Zara's eyes followed her every move. It was like she could feel the young woman's eyes on Jaemin, trying to seduce him with every smile, every glance. Zara wasn't going to let her win, though. She couldn't. She wouldn't. That night, as Zara sat alone in bed, her mind continued to race. She had tried to talk to Jaemin about it, but he wasn't listening. He couldn't see what was right in front of him. So, what was Zara supposed to do? She couldn't let this go on, not without making a stand. The thought of confronting Eunji directly seemed like the right thing to do. But was it too much? Would that ruin everything? Zara stared at the ceiling, her mind spinning. No matter what she did, no matter how carefully she approached the situation, it was clear that something had to change. Eunji wasn't going to stop unless Zara made it clear that she wasn't afraid to fight for her marriage. Zara knew she had to act fast, but what was her next move? Was she ready to confront Eunji directly and risk making everything worse? Or would she take a more calculated approach, making sure she had all her cards in hand before going to battle? The tension was building, and Zara was determined to win no matter what it took. What would you do if you were Zara? Confront Eunji head-on, or wait for the perfect moment to strike? The tension is rising, and Zara is about to make a move that will change everything. Subscribe now to find out what happens next. This story is just getting started, and trust us, you don't want to miss the emotional twists ahead. Zara had reached her breaking point. For weeks now, she had watched Eunji inch her way into every corner of her marriage. At first, Zara had tried to brush it off, tried to tell herself that it was all just innocent. But deep down, she had known better. Every time Eunji leaned just a little too close to Jaemin, every time her laughter lingered just a bit too long, Zara felt it. The walls were closing in. But today, Zara couldn't hold it in any longer. It happened when Zara walked into the office, as she usually did. She had made lunch for Jaemin and was ready to share a quiet moment together. But as soon as she entered, she saw it, Eunji, once again standing too close to Jaemin. But this time, she was bolder. The way she spoke to him, it was different. And then it happened. "I'm so lucky," Eunji said with that fake sweetness in her voice, looking directly at Jaemin. "It must be so nice to have someone waiting for you at home. Someone who cares, you know? Not everyone gets that." Zara's heart stopped. The words hit her like a slap in the face. She didn't just say that. She didn't just throw that in my face like it was nothing. Zara's hands clenched into fists at her sides. She had been holding it together for so long, but now this was the final straw. Eunji's blatant attempt to provoke a response from Jaemin, to see if she could get him to say anything, was too much. Zara's blood boiled. She wanted to walk up to Eunji and tell her exactly what she thought of her, but something inside her stopped her. No, she was better than that. She was smarter than that. But her patience was gone. As she stood there, trying to keep her cool, Zara saw Jaemin's face, his eyes flickering with discomfort. He knew something was off. But instead of confronting it, he shifted uncomfortably, giving Eunji an awkward smile. Why wasn't he standing up for me? Zara wondered, feeling a mix of frustration and betrayal wash over her. He should have shut this down, but he didn't. Not once. "Are you okay, honey?" Zara's voice was steady, though her insides were churning. She smiled sweetly, but there was an edge to it now. She was done pretending. Jaemin immediately turned to her, startled. "Yeah, I'm fine," he said, though the unease in his voice was obvious. Eunji, on the other hand, smiled again, almost too brightly, and made her exit. The tension hung in the air like a thick fog. Once Eunji left, Zara couldn't hold it in anymore. She could feel the tears pricking at her eyes, but she wouldn't let them fall. Not yet. She wasn't going to break down in front of him. She had to hold it together, for herself. "Why didn't you say anything?" Zara's voice cracked, though she did her best to keep it composed. "Why didn't you tell her to back off?" Jaemin's face softened, guilt flashing in his eyes. "Zara, I didn't, she's just a new employee. She doesn't know what boundaries are yet." But Zara couldn't buy it anymore. "Boundaries? Jaemin, this isn't about boundaries. This is about respect. She disrespected me, and you did nothing. She's been doing this for weeks, and you've been too blind to see it." Jaemin stood up, his hands held out in a defensive gesture. "Zara, I swear to you, I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I've been trying to be nice to her because she's new. I'm loyal to you, you know that." Zara took a step back, shaking her head. "Loyalty? You think I care about your loyalty when she's all over you right in front of me? She's not just being nice, Jaemin. She's testing the waters. And you're letting her." Jaemin's face fell, and for a moment, Zara saw it, the guilt. But it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough to fix this situation, to fix the deep wound that Eunji had caused. She could feel the tears welling up again, but this time, they weren't from sadness. No, these were tears of anger. The rage was building in her, and it felt like she might explode at any moment. "Zara, I never meant for it to get to this point," Jaemin said quietly. "I didn't see it like you did, but I'm sorry." Zara took a deep breath, trying to calm herself. The anger that had built up inside her was overwhelming. She wanted to scream, to confront Eunji directly, to tell her she had crossed a line. But no, she couldn't. Not yet. No, Zara was smarter than that. She wasn't going to make a scene. She wasn't going to give Eunji the satisfaction. Instead, she decided she would take matters into her own hands. Zara smiled, but it wasn't a smile of reassurance. It wasn't a smile of comfort. No, this was a smile that promised something bigger. She had a plan, a quiet one, but a plan nonetheless. She wasn't going to let this go on any longer. Eunji had crossed the line, and now Zara was going to make sure she paid for it. But as Zara began to formulate her plan, she knew one thing for certain: her next move would change everything. The quiet revenge she was about to take would make Eunji realize that Zara wasn't a woman to be underestimated. But would it be enough to stop Eunji from pushing even further? Or was Zara setting herself up for a battle she couldn't win? What do you think Zara should do next? Should she confront Eunji directly, or is there a more calculated way to handle this situation? Zara's fight for her marriage has just begun, and you won't want to miss the twist she's about to unleash. Subscribe now for more revenge, suspense, and shocking moments that will leave you speechless. Zara was done waiting. Done being patient. Done letting things slide. Eunji had pushed too far, and now it was Zara's turn to take control. It wasn't enough to confront Jaemin, he didn't get it. He couldn't see how much his silence, his obliviousness, was making the situation worse. So, Zara decided she would take matters into her own hands, and she was going to be smarter about it. She wasn't going to let anger dictate her actions. She would outplay them both. The more Zara thought about it, the more she realized there was one thing she had on her side: her position as Jaemin's protective wife. She knew his workplace, the dynamics, the people involved. She had already seen Eunji's game, and now it was time to use her own. Zara spent the next few hours carefully planning her strategy. She wasn't going to create a scene or get caught up in a public confrontation. No, this was going to be quiet, calculated, and effective. Zara knew how to manipulate situations in her favor, and she was ready to use those skills now. She waited until the next morning when she knew the office would be relatively quiet. With a deep breath, she dialed the corporate office. Zara had never made a call like this before, but she was prepared. She put on her most charming and slightly exaggerated Southern accent, ready to play the part of a concerned, dissatisfied customer. When the receptionist answered, Zara was quick to set the stage. "Hi, I hope you're doing well. I'm a regular customer at one of your branches, and I've always had good experiences until recently. But I need to address something that's been bothering me for a while now." The receptionist, polite but cautious, asked how she could help, and Zara, with careful precision, launched into her complaint. "It's regarding the dress code at one of your locations. I've noticed that one of your staff members, specifically a young woman in the warehouse, has been wearing these very revealing leggings to work. You know, the waffle leggings that make her look, well, a little too inappropriate for the office environment." Zara could hear the receptionist's surprised gasp on the other end of the line. She could already tell that the HR department was about to get involved. "I'm just concerned, you know? I come into the store frequently, and I can't help but feel uncomfortable seeing such clothing in a professional setting. I just thought I should let you know before this gets out of hand. I hope you understand my concerns." The receptionist, flustered but polite, promised to transfer Zara to the HR department to file an official complaint. Zara smiled to herself. This was exactly how she had planned it. The call was working. As the line clicked and the HR representative picked up, Zara quickly shifted into a new persona. She adopted the perfect blend of sweetness and concern, pretending to be the perfect, worried customer. "Oh, thank you for taking my call," Zara said, her voice soft and syrupy. "I'm just very concerned about a staff member's attire. It's really been bothering me, and I felt like I should bring it to your attention. She's been wearing these waffle leggings, and honestly, they're just too revealing for the workplace. I'm not sure if you have a dress code in place, but I think this might be crossing the line." The HR representative, caught off guard but determined to be professional, assured Zara that the company took dress code violations seriously and that they would investigate the matter. Zara knew the wheels were already turning on the other end. She had them exactly where she wanted them. "I'm just worried, you know?" Zara continued, putting on a worried tone. "I visit frequently and have customers with young children, and I'm afraid they might notice." "Well, you know how these things go. It just doesn't seem appropriate. And it's all the more concerning when I've seen this happening right under your nose." She's a new employee, but she doesn't seem to understand boundaries. The HR representative, now fully aware of the complaint, promised that the issue would be taken seriously. She apologized for the inconvenience and assured Zara that they would look into the situation. Zara thanked her, ending the call with a pleasant tone, and then set her phone down with a small, victorious smile. The next day, Zara's plan began to take shape. She knew what was coming. Eunji would be called in for a meeting with HR, and when that happened, she would be forced to face the consequences of her actions. Zara wasn't finished yet, though. This was just the first step. The first blow. She wasn't going to stop until Eunji learned her lesson. As the days went on, Zara kept her cool. She continued with her visits to Jaemin's office, pretending everything was fine. But inside, she was calm, calculating, and ready. Each time she saw Eunji, Zara's eyes would narrow just slightly. It wasn't over yet. Not by a long shot. Zara knew the moment was coming. The day that Eunji would find herself facing HR and being reprimanded for her actions. But what would happen after that? Would Eunji finally back off, or would she come back more determined than ever? Zara wasn't sure what she would do next, but she knew one thing: Eunji's reign of manipulation was about to end. The question was, how far would Zara go to ensure it? How do you think Zara should handle the aftermath of her plan? Will Eunji back down, or will this spark an even bigger fight? Zara's taking control, but there's still more to come. Subscribe now to find out what happens next. You won't want to miss the shocking twists ahead. The next day, Zara woke up feeling different. It was like the weight on her chest had been lifted, but she wasn't done yet. She had executed her plan with precision, and now she was watching as the first pieces of her revenge fell into place. It wasn't long before Zara heard the news. Eunji had been called into HR for a meeting. Zara could almost hear the nervous flutter in her stomach as she imagined Eunji sitting there, probably trying to explain away her actions. But Zara knew that the damage had already been done. No matter how much Eunji tried to deny it, she had crossed a line, and the company wasn't going to let that slide. Zara sat back in her chair, a quiet satisfaction settling over her as she thought about the conversation Eunji would be having. The HR department had already told Zara that they were taking her complaint seriously. They had investigated the matter and decided that Eunji's attire was not only inappropriate but also unprofessional, especially in a workplace setting where respect for boundaries was paramount. Zara smiled to herself, picturing Eunji's face when she was confronted. She'd probably try to act surprised, maybe feign innocence, but Zara knew better. Eunji wasn't some innocent employee just trying to fit in. She was a woman who had crossed a line, and now she was going to pay for it. Later that day, as Zara sat in the kitchen, Jaemin walked in, looking a little distracted. His eyes met hers, and he couldn't help but let out a laugh, the kind of laugh that Zara knew was a mixture of relief and amusement. "So, I heard about your little phone call," Jaemin said, shaking his head with a smile. "You really went to HR, huh?" "That's bold, Zara." Zara tried to hide her smirk, but it was impossible. "I had to do something." It wasn't just about the clothes. It was about the way she was acting around you, Jaemin. She was crossing boundaries, and I wasn't going to sit back and let her tear our marriage apart. Jaemin sat down across from her, his expression shifting from amusement to concern. "I know you're upset, but don't you think you might have gone too far? HR's going to know it was you who made the complaint. And they're going to know why." Zara leaned back in her chair, taking a deep breath. She had already thought about the fallout. But in the end, she didn't care. "Jaemin, sometimes you have to fight for what's yours. You didn't see it, but I did." She was making moves, and I wasn't about to sit there and let her keep pushing. Jaemin's eyes softened, a hint of regret in them. I know, I didn't realize it was that bad. Zara's face hardened. It doesn't matter now. The company has already taken action. She's been warned. And honestly, that's more than she deserved. This isn't just about what happened at work. It's about respect. If she couldn't respect me or our marriage, she needed to face the consequences. Jaemin nodded slowly, his lips pressed tight as if processing everything Zara had said. I understand. But I'm still worried about the fallout, Zara. This could cause a lot of tension at the office. Zara's heart was heavy, but she didn't back down. I've already thought about that. I'm not worried about Eunji's fallout. She's the one who pushed boundaries. This is her consequence. But we can't let her walk all over us. Not now, not ever. As Zara spoke, she felt a wave of finality wash over her. The situation wasn't ideal, but it had to be done. She had made sure that no one would disrespect her marriage again. The hardest part was over. But just as Zara felt a sense of victory settling in, her phone buzzed, the message flashing on her screen. It was from Suk, Jaemin's brother-in-law. You won't believe what just happened with Eunji. She's going straight to the top with this. She's not backing down. And now, things are about to get even messier. Zara's blood ran cold. Was Eunji really going to escalate this? Was this battle truly over, or was it just the beginning? What's next for Zara and Jaemin? Has Eunji learned her lesson, or is she just getting started? The drama is heating up, and you don't want to miss the next twist. Subscribe now for more shocking revelations, emotional battles, and revenge that's far from over. Zara's fight is just beginning, and you won't believe what's coming next. Zara walked into Jaemin's office, the familiar scent of his cologne greeting her as always. She smiled at him, his warm greeting filling her with the usual comfort. Yet, something was different now. The tension that had once hung over their home, like a dark cloud ready to burst, had lifted. For the first time in weeks, Zara felt a quiet sense of victory, albeit one she wasn't quite ready to celebrate openly. Eunji had been temporarily sidelined by HR's reprimand. The young woman's flirtations with Jaemin had all but ceased, and Zara couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. The constant unease she had been feeling was fading, replaced by a cautious optimism. Eunji's advances had been stopped for now, but Zara knew this was far from over. A part of her, the part that had been hurt and betrayed, remained vigilant. There was no telling how long the peace would last. Zara was smart enough to know that Eunji wasn't the type to give up easily. There was always a chance she'd come back, trying to push the boundaries again. That thought sent a twinge of anger through Zara. But for now, she allowed herself to enjoy the moment, to take a step back from the constant tension and uncertainty that had plagued her relationship with Jaemin. She had noticed subtle changes in him, changes that reassured her. He was more attentive, more present. It seemed like the stress from Eunji's actions had taken a toll on both of them, but with the threat temporarily neutralized, Zara saw the man she had fallen in love with again. During the past few days, their connection had deepened. Jaemin had made more of an effort to spend quality time with her, to make her feel wanted and loved. Zara appreciated the effort, but she wasn't blind to the fact that this peace was fragile. She didn't trust that Eunji would stay away forever. Still, for now, Zara could breathe. She used this time to nurture her relationship with Jaemin, subtly reaffirming the bond they shared. She made sure to take the initiative, planning small dates and surprises to remind him of how much she valued him. This was her moment to show him how strong they could be together, how nothing, not even Eunji, could tear them apart if they stood united. But Zara was no fool. While she enjoyed the respite, she kept a sharp eye out, watching Eunji from a distance. She had heard rumors that Eunji was already scheming to make her comeback. Zara didn't know how or when, but she had an instinct that told her this wasn't over. She would remain on guard, ready to protect her marriage, ready to fight if she had to. One evening, after spending a peaceful night at home with Jaemin, Zara received a message from Suk, Jaemin's brother-in-law. Her heart skipped a beat. Could it be? Was Eunji trying to come back into the picture already? The message read, Zara, I don't want to cause any trouble, but you should know Eunji has been acting strange lately. She's been trying to get close to Jaemin again, and I'm not sure she's going to let this go. Zara's blood ran cold as she read the message. She wasn't surprised, but the anger flared up inside her. She had known it was coming. She had known that this quiet victory wouldn't last forever. She looked at Jaemin, who was sitting across from her on the couch, scrolling through his phone. Zara felt the weight of the decision pressing down on her. What would she do next? How far was she willing to go to protect her marriage? As her mind raced, the unsettling thought crept in, was it time for another confrontation? Just as Zara began to formulate her next move, she heard the sound of footsteps outside her door. Her phone buzzed again, this time with an email notification. She clicked on it, and her heart skipped a beat. The subject line read, Urgent, HR follow-up on your complaint. Zara's stomach tightened. Was this going to turn into something even bigger than she had planned? Was Eunji about to make her move again, and would the company back her up this time? Zara knew she had to act quickly. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. But would her next steps be enough to stop Eunji from claiming victory? What should Zara do next? Should she confront Eunji directly or let the corporate team handle it? Or is it time for her to make an even bolder move to protect her marriage? Subscribe now to find out what happens next. The stakes are higher than ever, and the drama is only getting started. Zara's fight for her relationship is far from over. Zara sat on the edge of the couch, staring at her phone screen as a message from Suk flashed across it. Her heart rate picked up as she read the text. Did you hear about Eunji? She's going through a divorce. Word is, her actions at work might have played a role. Zara blinked, unable to process what she was reading. Divorce? Eunji? For a moment, everything felt surreal. Zara had seen the signs of tension between Eunji and her husband before. She had seen the way Eunji flirted with Jaemin, but she had never imagined that her actions could be leading to this. Could it be possible that the workplace drama had spilled over into Eunji's personal life? For a moment, Zara felt a flicker of something unexpected guilt. She had taken action against Eunji to protect her marriage, to defend her territory. But now, hearing this news, a deep, uneasy feeling curled in her stomach. Did she push Eunji too far? Her initial satisfaction from seeing her plan unfold now seemed less sweet. It was one thing to defend her marriage. It was another thing entirely to have caused such devastation in someone else's life. Zara sat back, processing the information. It wasn't just that Eunji was getting a divorce, it was the way the news was spreading. People were whispering that her flirtations at work might have been the breaking point in her marriage. Did Zara's actions, her call to HR, her public stance, push Eunji into a corner where everything fell apart? Was Zara responsible for the unraveling of another woman's life? The thought stirred something in Zara, but only briefly. She couldn't deny the feeling of satisfaction she'd had when Eunji had been reprimanded by HR. Eunji had crossed a line, and Zara had made sure she was held accountable. But now, seeing the consequences of that action, seeing that Eunji's personal life was shattered, left Zara conflicted. Was it worth it? Zara asked herself, her voice barely a whisper. Did I do the right thing? She thought about the days leading up to Eunji's reprimand, the way she had pushed Jaemin's boundaries, the way she had flirted with him, even in front of Zara. Eunji had shown no respect, and Zara had done what she had to do. She wasn't sorry. She couldn't be. But now, with Eunji's marriage falling apart, Zara felt a new kind of weight. She had wanted to win. She had wanted to protect her relationship at any cost. But as she stared at her phone, she realized that sometimes victory came with a price. And now, she wasn't sure if she had paid the right price. Zara's phone buzzed again. Another message from Suk. I don't know if this is the right time, but you should know Eunji's estranged husband is blaming the whole thing on her behavior at work. She's having a hard time defending herself. Zara's hands trembled as she read the message. She could almost hear the desperation in Eunji's husband's words. Was this really all because of her actions? Zara had wanted to put a stop to Eunji's flirtation with Jaemin, but now she was beginning to see the full picture. Eunji's personal life was falling apart, and Zara had played a role in it. But she couldn't back down. Zara had made a choice. She had protected what was hers. She had to remind herself of that. Still, the guilt lingered. It was hard to shake the feeling that maybe, just maybe, she had crossed a line herself. She hadn't intended for things to go this far. She had wanted a solution, not a catastrophe. Now, Zara was left questioning whether she was justified in what she had done. Just as Zara was about to put her phone down, it buzzed again. This time, it was a notification from Jaemin. "Zara, we need to talk. I just heard something about Eunji's divorce. I don't know how much of it is true, but it's making things more complicated." Zara's heart skipped a beat. Could this be the moment she'd been dreading? Was this going to blow up in her face? Zara is in a battle with her conscience, torn between her victory and the fallout from her actions. But the question is, was it worth it? What would you do if you were in her shoes? Is there a point where revenge goes too far? Subscribe now to find out what happens next. Zara's journey is far from over, and the consequences of her actions are only beginning to unfold. Zara sat on the couch, her legs tucked under her as she watched Jaemin in the kitchen. He was humming softly to himself, the sounds of his movements filling the silence between them. They had been through so much, so many emotional battles, so many silent moments filled with tension and uncertainty. But now there was peace. At least, for the moment. Jaemin walked into the living room, holding 2 cups of tea. He handed one to Zara with a smile. "Here, you've earned this," he said softly, his eyes warm with affection. Zara took the cup, her fingers brushing against his. She could feel the weight of everything that had happened between them, the fights, the mistrust, the hurt, but also the love, the deep bond that had held them together through it all. It wasn't perfect, but it was theirs. As they sat together, the air was thick with unspoken words. The events of the past few weeks replayed in Zara's mind. The confrontation with Eunji, the call to HR, the quiet satisfaction when things had fallen into place. But there had been consequences she hadn't fully anticipated. She had wanted to protect her marriage, to shield her relationship with Jaemin from the threat of Eunji's advances. But as she sat there, looking at the man she loved, she wondered if there had been a better way. Was it worth it? Jaemin broke the silence, sensing the shift in her thoughts. "You know, Zara, I'm grateful. Grateful for you. For your strength. I don't know how I would have handled this without you." His voice was low, full of sincerity. Zara looked at him, her heart softening. She reached out to place her hand on his. "I know you didn't see what was going on, Jaemin, but I had to do something. I couldn't just sit back and let Eunji try to take what was mine." Jaemin nodded, his expression thoughtful. "I know. And I don't blame you for what you did. You were protecting us. You were protecting me." Zara's chest tightened. "But the way I did it. I know it wasn't the most honorable. It wasn't the kind of revenge I thought I needed. I thought it would give me closure, but now I'm not so sure." Jaemin smiled gently, understanding the conflict within her. "Zara, you did what you thought was right. And sometimes you have to fight for what's important. You didn't hurt anyone who didn't deserve it. Eunji was out of line. She pushed boundaries she shouldn't have. You just made sure she knew she couldn't do that anymore." Zara took a deep breath, the weight of the situation still lingering in her mind. "But I wonder, was there a better way? Could I have handled it differently?" Jaemin's smile softened, and he leaned closer, his voice tender. "You're asking the right questions, but Zara, you need to understand. You did it because you love me. You did it because you're fighting for us. That's something I can't take for granted. I may not have seen what was happening at first, but you saw it. And you protected us, our love, our marriage. That's all that matters." Zara felt a wave of relief wash over her. For a moment, the guilt that had been weighing her down faded. She knew her actions weren't perfect, but they had been driven by love. And in the end, that was all she could ask for. She placed her cup down on the table and turned to Jaemin, her voice steady as she spoke. "I've learned a lot through all this, Jaemin. But the most important thing I've learned is that I'll always fight for us. No matter what." Jaemin took her hand in his, squeezing it gently. "And I'll always fight for you, Zara. You're my everything." Zara smiled, feeling a surge of love for the man sitting beside her. She had fought for their relationship, and though the road hadn't been easy, she knew it was worth it. They had weathered the storm together, and no one, not even Eunji, could come between them. Zara leaned in and kissed him softly, a promise in the touch. This was just the beginning of a new chapter for them, one where love and trust would always be the foundation. But as the kiss ended, Zara couldn't shake the lingering thought. What about Eunji? Was she really done with her games, or was this just the calm before the storm? Zara knew she couldn't afford to let her guard down completely, but for now, she had what mattered most. And as she pulled away, she caught a glimpse of something in Jaemin's eyes. A look that said there was still more to come. Zara's fight for her marriage was intense, but the battle isn't over yet. Will Eunji disappear for good, or is she plotting her next move? Can Zara and Jaemin truly move on from this, or will the past continue to haunt them? Subscribe now for more of this emotional journey, where love, trust, and betrayal collide. You won't want to miss what happens next.